I'm not forgetting to record the episode today. I'm currently in the car getting ready to go into a grocery store I've never been into before, but it's called Fresh Market. I don't know. I guess, is that what it's called? Yeah, Fresh Time. I think they had them in California and I just never went. But I thought it'd be fun to explore. I was going to grab a snack and eat outside, but it's raining, so I'm not going to do that today. So I thought, why not record a podcast episode? Because I have some things on my mind that I wanted to share with you. So this is, I didn't really have a plan coming on here, but I think that you're probably going to be able to relate to some of the things that I'm going to share. So the first one is that if you look at your family history, there are probably some things that are passed down generationally, right? Whether that's how things are done, why things are done, but beliefs, right? Why we do what we do. A lot of times they're just passed down. There's not really any rhyme or reason or whatever for why things are done that way, right? This can be habits, this can be behaviors, this can be just how things are done, how things look, all of those things, right? And so I was thinking about this, that, one thing that I have struggled with most of my life is just like body issues. And I think some of that stemmed from growing up and overhearing women around me talking negatively about their bodies and the things that they didn't like, right? And that is very easily translated to our children, especially our daughters. And I remember actually just several years ago, so I guess it was like 6 years ago, Holly came home from school. She was in kindergarten at the time, and she was like, yeah, all of my friends at school think their moms are fat. And I was like, well, that's silly, because compared to an adult mom, compared to a kindergartner, is a giant, of course, right? Comparatively, yeah, obviously, Now, I don't know these other mothers, maybe whether that was true or false, unsubstantiated or substantiated. I do not know. I know with the way that our society is, it likely could have been true, but that wasn't the point. The point was, and so I had a conversation with Holly in kindergarten, like, well, what do you think? Do you think that that's true? And she was like, no, I don't think you are. And I said, you're right, I'm not. But it could have gone completely different, right? But I just made a conscious decision, I don't know, probably since I started my health journey, to never, and I started my health journey 12 years ago now, I guess, just to never talk negatively about my body around my children, especially my girls. And if you know me well, I take my kids wherever I go. That's just how we roll. And so there's been many dressing rooms. Now obviously, Gabe is getting older. He doesn't go in the dressing room with me, but, or he'll turn around or whatever, but there's definitely been I remember one time, Ruth's like, your belly's so squishy. And, there's comments like those things. And just the other day we were riding in the van and Ruth, she was like, Mom, your arms are so big, right? And I was like, you're right. They are so big and they're so strong, aren't they? And she was like, yeah, and it was just in moments like that where our words and our reactions hold a lot of power, especially for our kids and even more so for our daughters, right? And so, and Ruthie she's shaped just like me. I always say we're very dense. We got a booty, we got thick thighs, and she has blue eyes. So we would say thick thighs and blue eyes, right? And I remember as a kid, my nickname was Bubble Butt, BB. And honestly, then it did not make me feel good. So maybe I shouldn't say thick thighs and blue eyes about Ruthie. But because of the way that Zach talks to me and about how he loves my curves and especially my butt, right? She sees that as a good thing. So probably different. The way that I took it on as a kid was it was not a good thing. Like I didn't look like any of the other girls. And so I've even talked to Zach about this, that because Ruthie is shaped just like me and we're denser, we're thicker, we're strong as heck, right? Like, but I don't want her to go through the things that I did, just growing up over the years, like throughout the years, like from childhood into preteen, middle school, high school, college, like, and just having that negative mindset around my body. And I've told Zach this, like, I do feel like there's a little bit of me that does have slight body dysmorphia, that like when I look in the mirror, if I go with my naturally ingrained tendencies, I zone in immediately on the things I don't like, right? Because it's so easy to do. It's very natural. It's in my subconscious. And so I have to consciously, smile into the mirror and remind myself that, I'm doing great things for my health, and I'm strong, and I'm active, and, I'm always getting better. And there's not necessarily a specific aesthetic that I am going for besides strong and fit, right? And healthy and active and mobile and like all those things, right? And so like that's something that I have not wanted to translate to Ruth, is that unintentional subconscious reaction of, well, I don't look like the other girls, so therefore, something's wrong with me, because it's not, right? And it's not to say that anything is wrong with the other girls that we don't look like, right? Okay, so all of this to say, right, that I heard this quote the other day, and honestly, it's kind of shook me up a little bit, and has stuck with me, and I just keep rolling it around in my mind, and I'm just like, oof. Now I'm sorry if you're going to hate on me for this, and that's fine. Not a fan of Oprah. But there was a quote someone shared from her that she said, "My weight is an apology to the world for my success." My weight is an apology to the world for my success. And I can't get that out of my head. Like, I was like, is that true for me? Have I struggled with, excess fat, though my neighbor, she calls it sexy fat, but I don't know. It's still, extra fat. Have I held on to fat more so, and like held on to beliefs around food, and like, especially, I don't know, I think I've shared this before, growing up too, like we shopped and we ate food. Like that's what we did as a family, as the women, to like bond, right? And we still do that, and it's enjoyable, right? But there's some like emotional ties to that. And I have heard that, when you don't feel like you have a lot of control of your situation when you're younger, that can translate into disordered type eating habits. It can, eating disorders, but actually when I was in high school, it was like middle school, probably 8th grade, 9th grade of high school, like those 2 years, I don't know if I had an eating disorder, but honestly, I had some disordered eating. I didn't eat very much. And I didn't really eat in front of people. And it was probably the skinniest I was ever in my life. 133. Like I said, I'm very dense, you guys. Like, I don't know if it's my bones or my muscles or what, but like, I am dense. Every time I go to the doctor, which I don't do very often, but around pregnancy, right, you go to the doctor a lot. Though I don't even know if I care for that as much anymore either. But, they would always be like the blocks, how you put like the big blocks on? I'd be like, nah, you're going to have to add another one. Like they always way underguessed my weight when they're doing that. And then they'd look at me and they'd be like, really? And I'm like, guys, I'm dense. Like, I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, check out that bicep there if you're watching the video. Bang. I'm dense, right? So anyways, so all that to say, like, this quote has been rolling around in my head, and I'm just like, is me holding on to the weight an apology for how successful I am, you know, and how is that holding me back, and then in essence translating to maybe my children in the long run, right? And so it's been a challenge to me. So I wanted to share that with you, because I don't know how that hits you. Like, how does that quote sit with you? Because for me, it was one of those things where I just kept thinking over and over it. And then yesterday I was driving. I think it was, I went on a field trip with Holly last night. We went to Medieval Times, which was super fun. Oh my gosh, the food was, okay, half the food was really good. Half the food was just like, really, Texas toast? Like, that's your delicious garlic bread? Like, sorry, no. And I'm pretty sure their tomato bisque, they called it, was made out of tomato bouillon and water. Like, thank you for that. But we had a great waiter. He was so nice. Anyway, so we had a long time on the bus. It was like an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back. And I roll around this quote in my brain, like doing some curiosity and compassion exploration. Typically I would journal with that and unscripted journaling, but I didn't have a journal, and I was just sitting and thinking. And I was like, do you think, I say to myself, do you think that just like belief and surrender of our lives to God, my dad was the first in our family line, and he broke a generation. Like, he was the first of his, like, generations of his family, right, to come to the Lord. And so like he broke generational traditions and beliefs, right? Like, and I was like, I feel like wealth as well, because we are very blessed. We're well in the middle class. And I would say most of my family is, not all, I would say low to middle class, right? Same for Zach's family. We're all very blessed. We're taken care of. Like, we want for nothing, right? But I don't know anyone in my family or in Zach's that is truly wealthy. Like, I'm talking truly wealthy as in 1% of the US population controlling, I think it's like 82.7% of the wealth. Is that right? So I'm talking about like true wealth builders who know numbers, investing, making your money grow and work for you and multiplying. People who are not shaken by economic things, who are not about the, just the paycheck to paycheck broke mentality of most of America, right? And so I was like, what if, like, these two things, because I've really been working through beliefs, right? Like, my beliefs in the Lord, they are not, like, those are so solid. I'm not dismantling those. Like, those, if anything, are just deeper and deeper every single day, right? As I seek the Lord and pursue him more in all things. But, there are beliefs that I've been dismantling when it comes to money. And now, like, I feel like God was like, the Holy Spirit gave me a little nudge of, you are doing things and shaking and breaking beliefs and remaking beliefs that have not been done yet in your family tree, And I just want to say this too, that, every generation does the best they can with what they have, right? So I absolutely love my parents and honor them, and I know, previous generations where they came from, and comparatively it's like day and night, and like the things that they changed and the way of thinking and doing and living and all of those things, right? And so hopefully every generation we're getting better. But I think, and Zach and I want to do that too. But like even bigger, right? Like 10xing it, right? And so I would just had that nudge for the Holy Spirit, like, maybe you're breaking generational trends and beliefs in health and wellness and fitness and in wealth and money. Man, and I shared that with Zach today, and he was just like, well, that's interesting, and so it's just, this journey I've been on, has just been, identifying beliefs, limiting beliefs, unlearning them essentially, and doing the daily consistent mental messy work of rewriting them and reinforcing them, right? And looking around just have a total different, like typically when I go on my, sorry, I'm like getting comfy here. When I go on my today's, I told Zach, I said, because I went to exchange a bench vise for him that I got him for his birthday, and the wonky thing didn't close flat. It just, duh. If you're meant to hold things together, right, and squeeze them together, it kind of has to be flush when it closes. So anyway, so I went to exchange that, and then it took me a while. I think I ended up going into the store 3 or 4 times, just me and Home Depot, just not. It's a challenge. It's just not. That's not my area of expertise, right? But I was proud of myself. I did it all by myself and all the things. But anyway, so typically when I would do this, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Five Guys out my window here, and there's nothing wrong with going to Five Guys. I love their french fries. I love their food. But typically what I would say to myself is I deserve this. I need this reward. And so I would go out and spend money I don't have on food that I'm not going to remember a week from now that I really did that and how it tasted and how I enjoyed it, right? Or I would go shopping, again, with money that we have, but not really, right? Because even though we don't owe anything on our vehicles, we still owe money on our house, and we have a credit card, right? Or I do for my business and things like that, that I need to pay on. And, but that to me was my old belief of I deserve this. This is how I'm going to relax and refill my cup. But it was getting to the point of frustration when your new beliefs are not matching your previous go-to actions, right? There's this point where it comes to a head where it's you say this, that's your goal, but your actual habits and daily actions are not lining up. You say you want to learn to invest, but here you are throwing away money on a cup of coffee that you couldn't afford in the first place. And now, based on what I know from investing, that actually doesn't cost $5, which is probably $7 or $8 today. That's $40, $48 down the road, and so it's the more my head is exploding. I told you, I've been challenging my thinking, on all fronts lately. And so I was okay, well, it's raining outside. I was going to go sit outside because I love being in nature and water and whatever. But it's raining, so whatever. So I was I love creating and making podcasts. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share all these thoughts on my brain. And then also I saw this, I think it's a health food store, kind of like a Trader Joe's, but not, kind of like a Whole Foods, but not. So I don't know. I might walk in and be this is just overpriced stupidness. But I still wanted to go in and check it out. And, also, even though it was kind of coming to a head in beliefs over money, right? My go-to of I deserve this is how I'm going to fill my cup, whatever, fleeting things that just don't matter and are not aligning with the actual goals that I want. Well, I was doing that in food too, right? I'm sitting here, I'm looking at Five Guys, right? Five Guys is delicious. Their French fries are amazing. But here's the thing. I recently did a full body, scan test, whatever, of hair and saliva, and found out that actually my body is really struggling with gluten. I don't think it's the gluten in and of itself as much as it is the pesticides that are sprayed on the crops that make it. And then also dairy, because my body lacks the digestive enzymes, the lactase. Is that right? Yeah. To really be able to, and I don't feel super bad when I eat a bunch of dairy. I do notice more of an inflammatory, histamine type reaction where my nose starts kind of running. I have more sleep in my eyes in the morning when I wake up, and I'll be like a little bit more nasally and phlegmy, right? But it's not like discomfort, but like gluten discomfort, like not fun. Like my guts just hurt. And so, that doesn't align with my health goals, right? Of like feeling good and just putting things in my body that fuel me well, not make me feel like death and just want to go to bed, right? Because that's what I would have typically done in the past. I would have like totally indulged in it, whatever, what have you, without really thinking through it and knowing actually full well that I was going to feel like crap later, and I would just go to sleep because I knew that if I just go to sleep, the like gut, whatever, pain, dullness, just not feeling good would go away after I went to sleep, right? Even if it was just like a short whatever. Anyway, so I'm like, why would I go to Five Guys to, first of all, spend the money that doesn't align with my current trajectory? And why would I eat food or even put myself in the building smelling the food that I'm tempted to eat? Because why would I want to go there and not eat a burger? I know you can get lettuce wrapped around it, but like, really? Not the same. But I do love their french fries. But potatoes were actually on the list too of sensitivities that I have. Again, I think that's actually because of the things sprayed on the potatoes, and potatoes are very absorbent. I think that is more of the problem there. Anyway, so it's like this challenge of my belief system, right? Up until just like the last, I don't know, several months to a year, and it's challenging a lot of these things, and it's like it's almost as if you've been given a new, like, you can't see very well, everything's blurry, and you've been given a new pair of glasses, which I don't wear glasses, but I imagine this is what it's like, right? Like if you've been struggling to see things and you get a prescription renewed, or like a new prescription, and you put them on, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like I hadn't realized that I'm so blind. Now I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can see that right now. Oh, I can see that person. I can read those words, right? And that's how my brain is feeling right now. Like I'm looking around and I'm seeing these behaviors and habits play out around me. And I'm like, why? Like it's almost like I was picked up and plucked out of my environment, and now I'm up on the mountain with a telescope looking around and seeing what was going on around me. And before, I just hadn't realized that I was also a part of that and engaged in that kind of behavior as well. I just didn't realize, aside from the frustration of having these misaligned habits and actions with my overall goals, right? Like I would say, like, this is what I'm working for, but in the actual carrying it out, I wasn't actually, working towards it. And then that would frustrate me though, because I am a visionary type of person. I am futuristic thinking, but I was getting so stuck in the present. Right. And so that, like, it's been such a challenge, but like a good challenge, right? It's like you do a hard workout, like that workout sucks while you're doing it. But when you get done, you're just like, yeah. Like back when Zach and I ran the marathon, it sucked, you guys. It was fun. Like I could probably count on like one finger the moments during that marathon that were fun. And I could probably sit here and list off all of the ways that was so hard, and we both hated it, and we both had our breaking point moments, but thankfully we helped each other along through those, and we crossed that finish line just in the nick of time before the cutoff was. But like, okay, I totally forgot where I was going with that because I got so excited about the marathon and reliving that. What was I saying? Oh, I know, but that's what it is. So, but like after that marathon, okay, so let's say maybe a few weeks after that marathon, when my blisters finally healed, I wasn't as stiff as a board. I think like all the chafing had finally healed, and I was like, I did that. We did that. Like, and then that's where it's like that challenge was worth it. And I'd probably do it again, right? Like, would I do it again? I probably would. Like, you guys know, I probably would. But the whole point of like going through doing the hard things, no matter what area it is or what part of your life, like the mindset that you get by doing that applies to everything. And you can't just have success in one area of your life and expect your life to be amazing. Like, this is one other thing I'm learning too, is that the areas where you're struggling, that you're not putting the work and the energy and the intention into, those are going to pull you back down. No matter what area it is, like, that you're succeeding in and you're doing well in, if the other areas are not good, like, those other areas are going to pull that successful area back down. And so we really do have to have a holistic step back approach of like, where am I sucking right now? What do I need to learn in this? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? Who do I need to get around that's already doing these things well, that I can learn from, that can challenge my current way of thinking, so that I can step into a new way of thinking. And I'll share this with you. I don't think Zach listens to the podcast. Maybe he does, and I just don't know, but I don't think he does. But we were just playing a game the other day, if you will. Like, I'm the big dreamer in the relationship, right? And he is very practical, very present, very like, okay, let's walk through the actual numbers of it. Like, let's make the op order, the plan. Like, he's very logistical, right? Like, he's so good at that. When we go on vacation, I just show up because I know he's got it all planned to the minute, usually. But that's not how I roll. Like, I'm like, let's go. Like, we know our destination. That's all I care about. We got a place to stay. We'll figure out how we're going to eat or what we're going to do and like all the things, right? But like, this is the vacation we're going on. It's going to be amazing. Like, this is the destination, and we're going to do whatever it takes to figure it out along the way, right? Like, that's totally my style. And so we're playing this game. I don't know if you guys have ever played this game, but essentially it's like, okay, someone gives you $1 million, $2 million, whatever. What is the first thing you're going to do with it, right? And then walk through those things, okay? And so then, you get out all the things like of like paying off our house and, paying off any debt and all the things, right? Giving, like, okay, we do all those, but then we go a little bit further, right? Of like, okay, so everything's paid, everything's taken care of, you're in a good place, you're investing, like, you're doing these things right. Okay, now, what are the things? And like, Zach and I aren't driven by having things, but there's nothing wrong with having things. Like, if you're already generous and you're giving and you're being wise with your money and you're multiplying it and like all the things, right? Like, there's nothing that says you can't have them. Like, as long as you understand, you're not taking them with you when you die, right? Like, we get that. But there's nothing that says that we can't enjoy things. I mean, look at Job in the Bible. Like, God restored his fortunes, twice over or 3 times over, like, after the fact of all the things. So like, there's nothing wrong in that. And anyway, so I was like, okay, what would you do? What would you buy, right? Or what would you want to have? And he's like, oh, Ford Raptor. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what that is. Like, is it a Jurassic Park dinosaur made by Ford? Like, I'm just kidding. I knew it was some kind of a vehicle, but I didn't really know much about it. And I was like, tell me more. Like, why? Like, why would that be, something that you feel is totally, unnecessary, but you would want? And he's like, because it's just cool. Like, apparently people who have it, like, they don't have it because they need it. They have it because they want it. And it's like for off-roading in like sand dunes and stuff. And I'm like, first of all, that sounds super fun, And I was like, that's awesome, And we kind of talked about that. And if you ever listen to anybody who's successful and they're talking about mindset hacking, what is the first thing that they tell you to do? To go put yourself in a situation of the things that you're working towards, right? Whether that's getting around people who are more successful than you in the things that you want to do or create, or like, say you want to fly first class, like, how can you better help your brain to visualize that and lock in on that than like being in that area? And maybe that's like when you get on the plane, you sit in the seat for like 2 seconds before they kick you out, right? Just so you get a little taste of it, right? So your brain can fully have those details and like latch onto it and sink its teeth in, right? And so I was like, I want to take Zach on a date to a Ford dealership and I want him to test drive a Ford Raptor, right? Now, does it mean as we're more successful, we're going to go buy a Ford Raptor? I don't know. Maybe, but maybe not. It doesn't really matter. But the point is putting ourselves in a situation where our brain has something to grasp onto, right? And honestly, we're doing the things we're doing because we want to be 7-figure earners so we can be 6-figure givers, right? So giving comes first, but like it could be, like if you have a charity that you want to support or an organization or a nonprofit, like going and being with them and serving alongside them so that your brain has a taste of what it is working towards, right? And I mean, even if you can't put yourself in those situations, like putting like in your brain, like very detailed, tapping into your 5 senses of what it's going to be like when that happens, right? And it gives your brain power. Now, it's not manifestation. Like, I'm sorry, I don't agree with manifestation because to me, manifestation is woo-woo. It's just not what visualization is. Visualization is giving your brain a vivid picture that I can fully tap into of where it's going. Whereas manifestation plays in this idea that if you put it out in the universe, it will come back to you, right? No, that's kind of like affirmations of saying like, I'm a millionaire, when your brain's like, no, you're not. I just saw your bank account, right? I've talked about that before. But you gotta have a way to make your brain work for you, and visualization is an excellent way to do that. So anyways, that's just a side note. It was funny because I looked it up today. We have a Ford dealership in town, and there was a Ford Raptor coming in, and so I put in to go test drive it, but apparently it's for somebody who's already bought it, and so we can't test drive it. And I was like, that's okay. But you know what? It's just an obstacle. I'm sure there are other Ford dealerships around that I can call, or we can just go and we can do this. And don't tell him, okay? Because I just want it to be one of those things where it's just like, listen, we're generous, and our success, is not about having things, but more about the experience of how God is growing us. And it's okay to want a Ford Raptor, to have that opportunity to have one if that's the way it can go. And, so anyways, I thought, oh, that's a good idea. Anyway, I booked, so with my investment into the 10X coaching and mentoring, they threw in a ticket to 10X Ladies in Miami, and that's in August. And today I booked my flights and my hotel. I chose not to stay in the actual hotel the event is at, and maybe this is my not wealth belief, but I was just like, I don't want to pay that much money for, because I wanted to be able to go in earlier and stay later so that I'm not rushed. I don't like to be rushed. I like to have time where I can explore and whatever. And so there's a hotel that's only like a 16-minute walk. That's like $129. I'm like, I can totally, and that gives me way more flexibility and freedom and all that good stuff. So anyway, so I did that, and I'm really excited because the whole point, honestly, of doing this 10X mentoring and coaching thing was so that it was the answer for me to get in the room with people who are way more successful than my brain can even wrap itself around right now. And it's the best way that I could think of to do it. I think maybe Zach would have wished I had done something different, but I think the power that he is enjoying that's coming out of me right now since doing this, he is very appreciative of and excited, and honestly probably challenged too. And like, we want to be able to challenge each other to get better all the time, right? Like, we don't want to be comfortable with each other and get into roommate status ever. Like, we constantly want to like light each other up and live more together, right? I don't know if that made sense, which is ironic considering in just a couple weeks here, we're moving him to Kansas for a year. But, God confirmed to us and has confirmed to us multiple times that that's what he wanted. And it was so interesting. I had someone say like, oh, are you regretting that decision now? Like, now that it's getting closer for him to leave? And I'm like, first of all, I don't know what that question means. Like, I don't even know why you're asking that question. Second of all, we never liked the decision in the first place, but we both felt very confirmed by God that that's what he was calling us to do. And so we're being obedient, whether we like it or not, right? Like, you don't have to like it to be obedient. You just got to be obedient, right? And our hearts are to be obedient to the Lord at all times and willingly do so, no matter if we like it or not, or what we think of it, right? And so, like, that was my response. Like, yeah, like, still feeling, we're confirmed. This is what God wanted. So this is what we're doing, right? Like, yeah, it's just so funny. People sometimes, and that's something that I want to share with you too. Like, people project on you their own insecurities, their beliefs. A lot of times it's their unwillingness to get uncomfortable in the right ways because they're too comfortable with their discomfort, right? They're frustrated by it, but they're not willing to actually do anything. And this has been me many times in my life too, for many different things. And so I'm thankful that, God doesn't just leave us as we are, how we are, but he continues to challenge us and grow us. So I'm curious if you, after listening to this, are starting to think like, ooh, where am I like the first in my family line that's like creating new generational beliefs and habits and success and, what is that looking like for you? So share a comment with me. If you found this helpful, share it with a friend. Like, I feel like the more we can all grow together, the better we're all going to be together. And that makes the world a better place at the end of the day. Take care.